Good evening, folks. Saying good evening, folks. It's your bro, Rich here again. Um, tonight's video is now part 3 on the DeLorean time machine. And, tonight, I am now on the next part. So, without further ado, let's just continue on from where I left off to from last video. Okay, so, this was linked, So this was linked to after Marty got a letter from Western Union after the DeLorean was struck by lightning, explaining that Doc was in 1885 and all that, and explaining how he doesn't want to be brought back home and whatnot. Like he doesn't want anyone to get him back. All that. So this is linked to it. So, so next part. So the letter read the next morning by Doc. The next morning by Doc. 1955 Doc stated that the DeLorean's buried in the Delgado mine adjacent to the old Boot Hill Cemetery, which was shown on the enclosed map, and provided repair instructions on fixing the time circuits with 1955 parts at the Boot Hill Cemetery outside the mine. Marty and Doc stumbled onto 1985 Doc's tombstone from 1885. It was now Marty's mission to save Doc in the past and bring him back to the future as well. So in other words, to save him and bring him back home. So after they got the DeLorean out of the mines. So it was now Marty's mission to save Doc in the past and bring him back to the future as well. Doc replaced the rotting tires with new white wall tires, which they just looked pretty cool with white wall tires. You rarely see any cars with white wall tires now these days, which is a shame. They should bring those back. They really should. It'll look super cool. I mean, come on, bring back the white wall tires, please, folks. Like, come on. I know it's not gonna happen, but I just wish you would. Like, please bring back the white wall tires. So bring back the white wall tires. Anyways, Doc replaced the rotting tires with new white wall tires, and working from the schematic diagram provided with the repair instructions, replaced all the broken parts, so broken instruments, with 1955 era vacuum tubes, which are known as new time circuit control tubes. Instead of microchips, they use tubes instead. So replaced all the broken instruments with 1955 era vacuum tubes and other components. He also put gas in the tank. Since 1985, Doc had drain all the fluids from the car, including the gas, before putting it into long-term storage. Next up is my most favorite part, the Old West. That's right, the Old West. Yep. Which is just the best. Anyways. I'm just seeing how much I got left. There's a lot. There is parts from the game, but I'm only gonna do it from the film. Because I don't want to take too long for that. But well. Interesting. Oh yeah, so the next part is the Old West. So let's go gas, I think. Since 1985 Doc ads. Draining all the fluids from the car, including the gas, before putting it to long-term storage. Yeah, jeez. Anyways, moving on. So the Old West. So, 1955, Doc and Marty set up at the Pohatchie Drive-In Theater, far away from town. So it was a Native American themed drive-in movie theater located about 20 miles outside of 20 miles outside of Hill Valley in 1955. Back then, it was like classic movie theaters where people would just sit on their cars and just watch the film. That's what they did in the old. That's what they did in the old days. Anyways, back to the old West. Both 1955 Doc and Marty set up at the Pohatchie Drive-In Theater, far away from town, far away from town, so that far away from town, so that Marty's arrival wouldn't be noticed by residents. In 1885, Doc set the time circuits to the day after his 1885 counterpart. The 1885 counterpart. Doc set the time circuits to the day after his 1885, the year the car was invented, counterpart sent the letter on September 1st. Marty hesitated to drive at the screen because of the wall with the Native Americans painted on it. But as Marty reached 1885, the 1955 wall was gone, but was replaced with real 1885 Pohatchie Native Americans who chased after the DeLorean, which Marty hid in a bear cave. So in a bear cave, Marty avoided the natives and the U.S. cavalry that was chasing them, but discovered that one of the natives had shot an arrow into the motor of the DeLorean. But discovered that one of the natives had shot an arrow into the motor of the DeLorean. Had shot an arrow into the motor of the DeLorean. Upon removing the arrow, sorry, Marty accidentally tears a hole in the fuel line of the car. He pays it no mind as he's chased out of. He pays it no mind as he's chased out of the cave by a bear living there at the time, and fell down the hill and landed on the property and landed on the property of his Irish ancestors. Seamus McFly and Maggie McFly, and his great grandfather William Sean McFly. The DeLoreans recovered. The DeLoreans recovered by Doc, but there was no gas of it. But there was no gas. But there was no gas. But there was no gas available in 1885 to replace the fuel that had leaked out. Marty wasn't concerned as he started. As he stated, Mr. Fusion could refuel the DeLorean. Doc said that it was. Doc said that was impossible as the motor always ran on gas, and Mr. Fusion only powered the flux capacitor in the time circuits. Even though it says flight circuits, but it's time circuits. Doc then plotted means of powering the car, including having his horses try to reach 88 miles an hour in the desert. They only made 20-30 miles an hour. Doc received a strong alcohol uh, concoction from the town bartender, Chester. It was born 1836 in the movie. So Chester, he was born on 1836, age 49, in 1885. Most likely was deceased at age 119, age age 119 in 1955. It was played by Matt Clark, who portrayed Chester. Born November 25th, 1936 in Washington, D.C. Doc receives a strong alcohol concoction from the town bartender, Chester. Presumably it was whiskey. It was like the strongest thing. Or was it Waco juice? I don't really know. Chester. That he hoped would have a similar effect to gasoline. But instead blew the fuel injection manifold out. This left only one available option, pushing the DeLorean up to 88 miles an hour, which came in the form of a locomotive. Doc and Marty's plan was to hijack or simply borrow the locomotive and take it to an unusual spur that ran to Shonash Ravine, which used to be named Clayton Ravine. It is called Clayton Ravine, Shonash Ravine, which used to be an old Indian name, I think. I don't know. Not too sure. Not too sure. Not too sure. Which was a deep gorge to the southwest of Hill Valley. Anyways, moving on. So yeah, so Doc and Marty, Doc and Marty's um plan was to hijack or borrow the locomotive and take it to an unused spur that ran to Shonash Ravine, 3 miles away. 3 miles away. So Shonash Ravine, where it would push the car before running off the end of the track. On the night of September 6th, Doc placed the car, which had its tires replaced with steel rims to allow it to run on rails onto the track. There, it awaited the locomotive. It awaited the locomotive. Their plan was their plan was successfully enacted on September 7th, and though Marty was sent back to 1985, Doc and Clara Clayton remained in the past. She was played by who was she played by? Was it Mary Steenburgen? There we go. So their plan was successful. Their plan was successfully enacted on September 7th. And though Marty was sent back to 1985, Doc and Clara Clayton, played by Mary Steenburgen, remained in the past. The DeLorean reached temporal displacement, temporal displacement just before hitting the buffer at the edge of the ravine. However, the train crashed. The train crashed. The train crashed through and landed into the ravine in a large explosion. This next part, for those who are new to this, will shock you to pieces. It's the destruction of the DeLorean. Back in 1950, not 1950, sorry, back in 1985. So I'm just a little bit tired. Back in 1980, back in 1985, the DeLorean, the DeLorean, the DeLorean, the DeLorean, the DeLorean traveled along the railroad tracks for about a mile until it came to rest. So it came to a stop. So it came to a stop on the track outside Hilldale. Immediately, Marty was stunned to see a beeping modern locomotive barreling towards him. When I say beeping, it's like beeped the train horn, like it didn't flash his lights. Anyways, Marty was stunned to see a modern locomotive. Immediately Marty was stunned to see a modern locomotive barreling towards him and escaped from the DeLorean just before it was destroyed. Just before it was destroyed by the train. After it passed by, Marty gazed at the time circuits and flux capacitor in shock, just as they flickered on and then off for the last time. Marty and Jennifer, who had remained on her porch, both went through the wreckage. Then, peculiarly, the railroad crossings bells sounded and its gates were down. No trains were to be seen. Just then, the JVT, Jules Verne train, appeared and blew Marty and Jennifer back several feet. This was Doc's way to return without This was Doc's way to return without the aid. This was Doc's way to return without the aid of the DeLorean. After introducing Marty and Jennifer to the two new members of the family, Jules and Vern, and Claire as well. So Jules and Vern, Doc handed Marty a gift, the photograph of them standing in front of the clock, and gave some words of advice before leaving to times unknown. You never know where. And gave some words of advice before leaving to times unknown. Okay, next up we got is behind the scenes. But I figured I'll do it for the next video. So yeah. So if you guys like this video, like, subscribe, comment below what y'all think. Hit the notification bell and hit all so you don't bring up. So that'll be it. See you guys later for the next video. Till then, stay safe, have a great morning, and have a great day as well. Or is it evening? I can't remember. Either one of those two. So until then, stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you guys a little later. So yeah, take care, folks. Stay out there, and I'll see you guys a little later. Peace.